Hi, I'm Dr. Jim, a space scientist and a musician. Welcome to Space Quest, where we use stories and songs to learn about space with some special visitors from the future. It's always nice to see you both, Piper and Vista. Thank you for coming back from the future to visit me again.
You're very welcome, Dr. Jim.
We are always pleased to visit with you, Dr. Jim.
In this episode, we learn about how Tommy and Laura tested out their ideas for new science and technology by traveling to the planets in our solar system. They went to Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter, and they even recovered from a tricky landing on another planet. They did this with their own new inventions to power their spaceships and to search for many old space probes left on the planets. Do you think kids can go into space? Someday, there could be a girl named Laura and a boy named Tommy with their own spaceships and robot companions who come back from the future to learn how space exploration began. Here's a song about kids in space. Once we went into space to be part of a race so that people could walk on the moon. Many years have gone by, but again we will fly and return to the sky sometime soon. Can a girl fly through space to a planet? Could she pilot her spaceship and land it? Could she fly through the sky as the stars go by and bring home a space pomegranate? Many robots have flown to the greatest unknown and explored all the worlds of our sun. They have learned many things and gone through Saturn's rings, but there's so much that they haven't done. Can a boy fly through space in a rocket? Could he learn how to steer and to dock it? Could he fly through the sky as the stars go by and hold meteors in his pocket? You could learn to fly as the stars go by and reach for the endless sky. When the sun starts to sigh, many atoms will fly to be caught by the earth and remain. Glowing curtains of light will extend out of sight, painting colors that fall like the rain. Can the kids of the earth catch auroras? Could they have names like Tommy or Laura? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and hold northern lights in fedoras? You could learn to fly as the stars go by and reach for the endless sky. There's a world that's nearby with a red-colored sky and some others with ice all around. Some are big balls of gas where you'll never see grass since they don't really have any ground. Can the kids of the earth reach the heavens? Could they answer the biggest of questions? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon? Let's see if we can learn anything more with our time-traveling friends from the future. Tell me, Piper and Vista, what are Tommy and Laura up to now?
Tommy and Laura are still on their long journey to another star, but they would like to share some stories about how they tested their upgraded spaceships by visiting all of the planets.
Tommy and Laura had many adventures as they explored the planets of the solar system. They had to take the time to think of everything before setting out on their ultimate journey to the alien star system.
Well, that sounds very interesting. Did they visit all the planets to test out their new spaceships and learn how to fly them? It must have taken them some time to do that, since the planets are so far apart.
Yes, it did take them a good while to fly to all of the planets. They even had a race to see who could get back to Earth first.
That's right, you told me about the race to all the planets that was hosted by the Mars Museum. If I remember right, Tommy and Laura visited the planets in 2 different orders.
Tommy chose to start from the sun to visit the planets from the closest to the farthest. Laura visited them in the order of their size, from smallest to the largest. When they were finished, they arrived back on Earth at the same time.
In the future, it sounds like all roads lead to Earth.
Yes, Conductor Arthur, just as long ago all roads led to Rome. What were the new technologies that Tommy and Laura had to test out in their early exploration of the solar system?
Incoming time text from Tommy. There were many new ideas to test out, Dr. Jim. We developed new methane engines, X-ray sensors for Piper, and flexible landing systems for my rocket ship, all based on the new science and technology. Tommy, over.
Thank you, Tommy. I can see how all of those things would be important to explore the planets. Did Laura test out new equipment for her spaceship as well?
Incoming time text from Laura. Yes, Dr. Jim, I created a new power source to propel my spaceship with electricity from a fusion power core, which we later used for the space-time ship. Also, I developed new ways to navigate through both space and time together. Laura, over.
Oh, I see. All of the ideas that both of you have mentioned ended up on the space-time ship for the trip to another star. One thing at a time, though. Why choose methane as a rocket fuel?
Tommy and I worked at his father's rocket fuel plant on Mars, where it is possible to create methane from the Martian atmosphere. This gave us plenty of opportunity to develop special engines to steer the rocket for landings and other fine maneuvers.
Of course, that certainly makes sense. In our time, there's a company called Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX for short, which has a new rocket engine called the Raptor that uses methane for fuel. Tell me more about the new X-ray sensors for Piper.
Piper sensors were upgraded to use powerful X-rays and radar that can penetrate the surface of a planet. In this way, the 2 of us can combine our different sensors to scan for everything from old space probes to Earth-crossing asteroids.
Yes, Vista, when we work together, we can find almost anything. You used your visual and infrared sensors very effectively to find traces of early landers and rovers on Mars. With my ground-penetrating sensors, I was able to pinpoint their locations, even if they were buried under the Martian sand dunes.
Yes, I remember you said that you were working for the Mars Museum to recover the early robots of Mars to put on display. I'd like to know about the flexible landing systems that Tommy mentioned.
That flexible landing system took some time to get correct, and it caused some problems on the planet Mercury. The weight of a rocket will be different on each planet, and so the landing gear must be able to adjust for the differences in the strength of gravity.
I imagine that would be especially true of a rocket that lands vertically on its tail. Hopefully, Tommy and Laura were able to fix those problems.
Yes, Dr. Jim. However, they had a close call one time on Mercury when Tommy's rocket started to tilt over after landing. Since his rocket lands vertically, it had to be pointed straight up for liftoff.
As Dr. Jim says, keep your eye on the sky.
Exactly, Conductor Arthur. Tommy's rocket had to be pointed straight up at the sky to launch properly. How did they take care of the problem when the rocket began to tilt over?
Laura's spaceship lands like an airplane, and it can take off the same way under electrical ion propulsion. She landed her spaceship near Tommy's rocket and was able to pull it back into position with a special cable.
I see, but how did they get it to stay that way until it was time to launch? Did Tommy adjust the landing gear?
No, Tommy had to improvise a solution. With the rocket held upright to point at the sky, Tommy used a shovel to move some rocky soil from the surface of Mercury to fill the trough-shaped crater right under the landing gear.
Even in the future, it is sometimes necessary to use your hands to solve problems. Fortunately, the gravity of Mercury is very small, so that made the job much easier.
If Mercury was the first planet that Tommy and Laura visited to test out their new spaceships, it sounds like they had a bit of a rocky start to explore all 8 planets.
It appears that you have been programmed for humor as well, Dr. Jim. Do you know why there are exactly 8 planets in the solar system?
No, Piper. Why are there exactly 8 planets in the solar system?
Because 7 or 9 would be odd. Ha 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 ha.
That does not compute, Piper.
Space jokes are never easy.
We've learned an important lesson about working in space, that teamwork is the best way to solve problems. When Tommy and Laura went to Mercury, they were looking for an old NASA space probe called Messenger. Even though they found it, they still had to work together to make it safely back to space. Here is a song about what happened, and you're welcome to sing along. Tommy took his rocket all the way to Mercury. Laura flew her spaceship down to find a mystery. Metal bits were scattered on the ground beneath her feet. Tommy said, "That's Messenger, a mission now complete." 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. NASA chose to fly the Messenger probe right into Mercury at the end of the mission, which allowed them to study the planet very closely right up until it hit the surface. Someday, perhaps it will be possible for kids of the future to go and find the crash site on Mercury. After they went searching for some pieces of the past, Tommy noticed something wrong and then he looked aghast. When his rocket landed, it came down on bumpy ground. It began to tilt and make a funny creaking sound. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Once Tommy's rocket was on the surface of Mercury, it slowly began to tilt over, so they had to act quickly. With the rocket leaning, it would never reach the sky. They would need to figure out a way to make it fly. Laura used her ship to pull the rocket straight and true. Tommy filled the craters so the ground was level too. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The kids made a good team, and they took care of the problem together. When they worked together, they could solve most anything. All they needed was the time to think of everything. With some help from Laura and some rocks to fill the trough, now they both were ready for the rocket to take off. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Again. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
After their adventures on Mercury, Tommy and Laura made modifications to the landing gear on both of their spaceships to handle different amounts of gravity on all the planets and moons. This was very helpful later when they were building the new space-time ship.
Of course, the planet with the most gravity in our solar system is Jupiter, but you can't land on it since it doesn't really have any ground. That raises an interesting question. How did Tommy and Laura explore the giant outer planets when they couldn't land on them?
Perhaps they used the rolling rocket to roll on by.
Yes, that's right, Conductor Arthur. Tommy and Laura orbited the giant planets and flew past them in their spaceships. However, they did actually land on one of Jupiter's moons called Europa.
Yes, Europa, the smooth, ice-covered moon of Jupiter. We've talked about Europa before, but I'd like to know how Tommy and Laura actually landed on the surface and then explored the ocean under the ice.
The most important thing they had to do was to choose a landing site on Europa. I used my sensors to map all of the cracks in the ice to find one large enough for their spaceships to dive into the water.
It must have taken a good while to map all the cracks on the surface of Europa, Vista. Was Piper able to help with his equipment as well?
Yes, of course, Dr. Jim. My long-range radar sensors were able to detect the differences between the ice and the water in the cracks in order to narrow down the search. Then, Vista was able to concentrate on the most likely landing spots.
Once again, teamwork is the key, even for robots.
Yes, it is, Conductor Arthur. Once the best landing site was chosen on Europa, what did Tommy and Laura do next? Did they go straight into the water?
No, they landed on the ice first to test all of their systems. This is normal procedure to take exploration in careful steps. With their new landing gear, they were able to put both of their spaceships down safely on the surface.
Tommy was carrying a load of special fuel for a robotic submarine that they were going to launch into the ocean. This would require a rendezvous under the water, since Laura's ship would launch the submarine.
I see. They landed on the ice first, checked out all of their equipment, then entered the water through a large crack to dive into the ocean. Once they were down below the ice of Europa, Laura launched the robot submarine and Tommy loaded it with fuel.
Exactly, Dr. Jim. The robot was left in the ocean of Europa to search for signs of life with enough fuel to work for many years.
Let's hear a song that tells the story of how Tommy and Laura took a robot submarine to search for life in the oceans of Europa, an icy moon of Jupiter.
Laura went to Jupiter and Tommy went along with her. They found it soon, an icy moon. At Europa there would be below the ice a deep dark sea where ships could dive and might survive. Way down low below the ice of Europa, kids could find brand new life, hopefully. When they go below the ice of Europa, things could be swimming free in that sea. In Europa, they would look down through the water when they took their ships below the ice and snow. Deep inside the icy moon, they had to look through dark and gloom to see if signs were left behind. Way down low below the ice of Europa, kids could find brand new life, hopefully. When they go below the ice of Europa, things could be swimming free in that sea. Jupiter has many moons that range from big to small. One is called Europa, it's the smoothest icy ball. Laura sent a robot out to swim the sea and try to scout for tracks and marks, or maybe sharks. Tommy gave the robot fuel to run for years and use its tools to search alone and phone back home. Way down low below the ice of Europa. Kids could find brand new life, hopefully, when they go below the ice of Europa. Things could be swimming free in that sea. Jupiter has many moons that range from big to small. One is called Europa, it's the smoothest icy ball. After many years went by, the robot did its best to try to find some clues and send the news. Someday we may know the truth with extraordinary proof that life could be down in that sea, way down low below the ice of Europa. Kids could find brand new life, hopefully, when they go below the ice of Europa. Things could be swimming free in that sea. Things could be swimming free in that sea.
The robot submarine didn't really find sharks in the oceans of Europa, did it? Was there any sign of life at all as it searched around for all of those years?
We cannot answer your question, since those events are too close to your own timeline, and therefore the probability streams are not spread out enough to be safe. If we tell you now whether there is life on Europa, we could put our own futures in danger, Dr. Jim.
Piper is correct in this case, and we must use caution. It is much safer to tell you about the possibilities that are much farther out in the future.
Yes, of course, I understand, and it's always best to be careful in whatever we do. For now, the question of life on Europa remains a mystery, but NASA is working on a new robot probe called the Europa Clipper that might provide the answer in the next few years. Instead of landing on the ice, Europa Clipper will orbit very close to the moon and try to fly through the water geysers that erupt from the surface. If NASA's space probe can collect any water droplets, they could be examined on board the spacecraft to see if they might contain any alien microbial life.
And that's the rest of the story.
We've been talking about how Tommy and Laura tested out their new technologies by taking their spaceships to explore all of the planets in the solar system. They wanted to show that they were ready to begin building their new spaceship for two that could take them to another star by traveling through both space and time. Also, they learned how to work together to solve unexpected problems.
Incoming time text from Tommy. The experience at Mercury was very important to help improve the landing abilities of our spaceships on any moon or planet. Because of this, the space-time ship should be able to land anywhere. Tommy, over.
Incoming time text from Laura. My fusion core motor can provide all of the power for the space-time ship to travel to the star system where the alien signal came from. With our new technologies and help from Piper and Vista, we hope to complete our journey soon. Dr. Jim. Laura, over.
Thank you again, Piper and Vista, for helping us to communicate with Tommy and Laura in the future through time texting. I hope all is going well on their long journey to the alien star. Thank you very much as well, Conductor Arthur, for your clever insights and references. Tommy and Laura went to visit all 8 planets in our solar system as a test of their new scientific ideas and the technologies they would need to take the first trip to another star. Along the way, they had to overcome some troubles on Mercury and work together to take off again. From there, they went on to explore all of the remaining planets in the solar system. Finally, they launched a robotic submarine into the ocean way down low, below the ice of Europa. I'd like to thank my friends Piper and Vista and Conductor Arthur very much for joining me today on Space Quest. And you too, remember, keep your eye on the sky and keep thinking for yourself.
Bye-bye.